and welcome back to my channel. Today, as the title says, I'm going to be talking about my experience and my opinions and my thoughts on reading the Eragon series. This series is also known as the Inheritance Cycle. For those of you who don't know what it is a book series, a young adult fantasy fiction book series that centers around the very basic young adult trope of hero must defeat big evil king. Now, I am not a huge young adult fiction fan. Obviously I was when I was a kid. I read so many series, and I might actually do some videos on this series that I did read as a kid. And it'll kind of connect a little bit to why I didn't enjoy Aragon that much. So, once again, young adult fiction is not really for me, so why did I read these books? For nostalgia's sake. I read the first two books when I was in high school. I remembered never finishing the series. I had the last book on my shelf, and I was like, you know what, let's go ahead and buy the 3 previous books, I'll read it all, and, you know, see if I like it better as an adult. Turns out that was the wrong move. I should have probably DNF'd these books, but I didn't, because again, I'm persistent, and I really wanted to know how it all happens. Like, what happens at the end? Does he succeed? Obviously he does, but I just, you know, I wanted to know. Curiosity got the best of me. So this video, I don't want to make it too long. I do mainly just want to talk about the series in itself. Each individual book, I'll kind of say which ones I liked, which ones I didn't. But so, the story is young boy, he falls into this duty where he has to essentially save the whole world. And he has no choice in the matter, obviously, because that's what young adult fiction does. So he discovers a dragon egg, and in this fantasy fiction world called Alagasia, dragons are a thing, and dragon riders used to be a thing hundreds of years ago. But the now reigning tyrannical king eradicated all of them, got rid of all of them. And now Aragon has this egg, and he has a dragon, and it is his duty to save the whole world, right? Now, the first book kind of did a good job where he technically did have a choice, where, you know, there's this allusion to, like, we don't know where your loyalties lie yet, but it's pretty obvious that he's going to side with the rebellion to overthrow the evil king. Now, the other thing is, too, the wizard, or the king, he is a very powerful wizard, to the point where some of the most powerful races in Alagasia, of which there are elves, dwarves, werecats, dragons, Urgles, none of them can depose him. But for some reason, a 16-year-old boy who just found out that he now has a dragon and he can use magic, because that's kind of what comes with the territory, yeah, he's going to save the world. So, obviously not very believable, but it's your basic YA trope. A lot of people love it. I have a really hard time with it. I can't stomach it sometimes. So of course, as you can tell, that is one of the reasons why I didn't really like Aragon very much. Now, I do want to focus first on all the negatives, then I'll go into the positives. So the story in itself is already something that I can't stomach very well. The second thing is that a lot of these books reminded me a lot of Lord of the Rings. I never read any of the Lord of the Rings books, but I watched the movies, and especially the first book, I was just like, Aragon, Aragorn, loves an elf, dwarves, elves, on a journey to defeat the big evil wizard, a fight in the mines, like dwarf mines, like, wow. But it's still different in its own sense. Like, okay, they're dragons, it makes it different. And then as you go along the series, personally I feel like it was kind of different. But yeah, there are a lot of similarities, so that also kind of sucked, where I was like, it's, you know, okay. Then, the other thing is that I really don't like the main character. Really not a fan of Aragon. He has no personality. He cannot make choices on his own. And, I mean, some people will say, like, I've heard some people say that when they read the series, they were like, oh, he got so powerful out of nowhere. I'm like, really? He did? Because I saw him get his ass beat all the time, even though he spent, like, grueling hours and days and weeks learning how to use magic, and then for some fucking reason, he still sucked ass. So, I really couldn't stomach him very much. Yeah, not my favorite character. Most of the time I wanted to slap him. Thankfully he's in a book, so I can't do that. So there's that. Then the other part, and the part that really made reading this series extremely difficult, was the writing. The writing is so long. A lot of descriptions that, I mean, doesn't really matter. Like, the author will describe to you how an ant farts if he could. Like, it's that kind of writing where it's just so minute details, and I'm like, can you please just get on with the story? So that was really probably the hardest part for me. I fell asleep reading a lot of chapters. I skipped chapters after a while because I was like, okay, he's describing to me what the wind felt like, and now he's talking to me about a tree, and I was like, nope, I'm skipping that. I want to see the rest, right? So those were really the big negative points of the all the Eragon books, in my opinion. Although the first one wasn't too bad with it, but all the other ones just got worse and worse and worse with it. And I mean, you can tell too. If I hold these books up, like this is the first book, then you've got the second one, and then you've got the third one that's just fucking humongo, and the fucking last one? What the fuck? Like, they just get worse and worse and worse. It's almost like the author was putting off finishing his story because he really wanted to make it really long, but it got really boring. So that was the biggest hurdle for me. So not liking the main character, the writing is super long, the story in itself was just not riveting to me. And did I say there? Yeah, the similarities to Lord of the Rings. Yeah, those were the big points, which are usually reasons that people put books down, but I am fucking persistent, and I really wanted to finish and see what happens. Oh, and I guess maybe I should say it too, it ends the way you would kind of expect. I don't want to give too many spoilers, but it basically ends the way you would expect, and I ended up not even reading the last, like, 2 chapters. They're really short chapters, so that is something that is good. I'll get into the good points in a minute, but so for the last book, when you get to the end, I essentially, like, the last couple chapters are just like your what happens next, and I just did not care. I was like, no, I didn't even read them. I read the last sentence and I was like, yep, I know what happens. So yeah, those are the negatives, but I like to end on a positive note usually, so let's go ahead and go into the positives. The reasons that kept me suffering through these books, the reason that I didn't completely hate reading them, was A, the characters, the other characters. Everyone other than Aragon and Arya, I wasn't a huge fan of her either, everyone other than Aragon and his love interest were really good characters. Like, they felt like characters that even the author preferred to write about. So in the first book, you mostly get Aragon's story, right? He finds his dragon, and he has to go through all this stuff, and just the whole setting, right? And this book was actually really good. I really liked reading this one. It was good. Then in this book, in the second one, it starts introducing Aragon's cousins and the leader of the rebellion's points of view. So you get chapters that are from their point of view and what they're doing and what they're going through. And I really like that. In all honesty, after a while, I was like, why isn't this whole series about one of those characters, or both of those characters? Like, why isn't it a whole series based on these 2 characters who are trying to overthrow the king and have to put up with some child dragon rider who's supposed to be the hope of the nation but fucking sucks, right? Anyways, that was my take on that. And then throughout the other books, their perspectives remain, so you continue to get Aragon, his cousin, the leader of the Varden, And I think, does someone else come into the picture? I don't think so. I think that's it. Anyways, all the other characters are cool. Then there's the intricacy of the world building. I think that it was really well done. Again, the writing is really lengthy and sometimes it was unnecessarily long, but I do think that the author took a lot of time to create this fictional world, and I really appreciated it. I did definitely skip a lot of the dwarf politics that happened in Brissinger in the third book, and I also skipped a lot of the elf shit that was going on in Eldest. But for people who love like a very fantasy, fiction, political heavy, like traditions and the origins of magic and things like that, if they love that stuff, Eragon is definitely a series for you because it really does go into all that. Although there are some questions that I do still have, but I would rather the author not answer them because I feel like it would take him 2 years. Then, let's see, what else did I like about these books? Not much, to be honest. There was really just the other characters, the world building, but the world building was a little lengthy. Like, same thing with also, I liked the descriptions that mattered. I liked the fact that the author was a really good writer, but just also bad at the same time. Like, kind of hard to describe, I guess. But yeah, all in all, I think that I would say Eragon, not for me, for multiple reasons. One, I'm not a YA fiction fan anymore. I liked it as a kid. I'll pick them up if they're a little, I don't know, more straightforward, maybe treading on some deeper topics. I don't like romance, so anything without romance works for me as well. Oh, I guess I should point out, there is no, like, there's no good romance in this book. Well, except for Aragon's cousin. Aragon's cousin has a nice love story, and it's honestly the only one I care for, but the main character's love life is a fucking nightmare, and I wanted to scream the whole time, because I was like, oh my god, stop letting everyone control you, and make a decision up for yourself, but Eragon doesn't know how, so another infuriating moment. So yeah, young adult fiction, not for me, not my favorite, but I would definitely recommend these books for people who like a very lengthy read, who like a lot of description, a lot of detail, who like a very intricate, like, political heavy book with elves and dwarves and magic and dragons and so much stuff like that, and giant snails. Yeah, I'll say it like this. I don't regret reading these books. I'm glad I did. I know what happened. I fulfilled my quest, but it also kind of feels like it was a waste of time for me because I didn't enjoy them as much, and I kind of predicted what would happen most of the time. So yeah, for me, not the best, but I would recommend these to people who like young adult fiction and they want a story with dragons and adventure, and some really, really good side characters. So yeah, that was basically all my thoughts on Eragon. Well, the inheritance cycle. If you have any input of your own that you would like to mention, anything that you think maybe I got wrong, please feel free to drop that down in the comments. I would love to have a discussion on these books, although I would like to also put them aside and never talk about them ever again. Also, any other suggestions or any other things that you would like to talk about, feel free to drop those down kindly in the comments. I also have links to my social media and different things that I do down below. And yeah, thank you for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye!